Take me back to the moment where you realize the way that I have been surviving in the world is not serving me, and there's a whole other way to live.
Well, it was really it's one big moment of realization when I almost lost my life. I basically had been running away from my emotions by intoxicating myself in different ways through drugs and alcohol, just trying to basically run away from my emotions as fast as possible. And I had taken my body so far to the edge where I almost lost my life one night. And in that moment, I realized, how did I get here? I got here by lying to myself, by repeatedly not admitting that I had this tension, this anxiety, this sadness that was arising inside of me that I had to deal with.
I think a lot of us have accepted that stress, that tension is just a part of everyday life and is entirely normal. What does it even look like to live a life where you question that as a given?
I think it takes that courage and that strength to even sit with the uncomfortable emotions that arise and pass away. I think that was the big turning point, because I knew that lying to myself had gotten me to that point. So if telling myself the truth, it had to be the avenue to get out. So I think in the very beginning, I would challenge myself to just literally sit with the anxiety for 5-10 minutes, even before I started meditating, to just be with the uncomfortableness. And I was surprised that I was so afraid of it, but when I actually sat with these emotions, they weren't as daunting or as terrifying as I thought they would be.
One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because obviously we live in a moment where everything feels so heavy and so consequential, and it is. I think we're being asked to hold that truth at the same time that we have people like you reminding us that if we do not take care of ourselves, we are not of use and of service to others. And so I wonder how you square those two things, both the state of the world, the need for advocates and advocacy, and also the need for those advocates to practice self-care.
You know, I mean, you hit at the critical point, right? So my background was in activism. As a young person, I was in the organizing world, and I saw how powerful it can be when people come together around a common cause. But I think something special is happening in this historical moment where there are these tools becoming available worldwide, different forms of therapy, different forms of psychiatry, different forms of meditation that people can actively use to heal their inner hurt, to heal whatever it was that they've been carrying. And that makes this historical moment quite different in the past, because people have always tried to change the world for a better, but this time they can change the world and simultaneously change themselves, and that's what's new.
How do you think the world would be different if leaders prioritized vulnerability and connection over strength and compliance?
Wow, I think that's a beautiful question that leads into what's missing, and I think what's missing is self-love. It's literally the missing piece. If more and more people got to know themselves, got to know their emotional history, dealt with what's inside of them, then they're going to be less interested in harming themselves or others, intentionally or unintentionally. And you see that when people transform and heal themselves, they don't want to harm others. They want to find better solutions.
You are, of course, the author of 3 books. And yet, I think most of our audience will be most familiar with you through the work that you share on Instagram. And so I wonder, given the sort of fragility of these social media platforms, as you watch the unraveling of X, formerly Twitter, what that means for people like you who've built massive audiences, who've shared your message, harnessing platforms that you don't own?
I think it's difficult because we are in this sort of transitional phase where we're realizing that these platforms, they have undoubtedly changed the world, right? These social media platforms are allowing humanity to have a conversation with itself, and that's been powerful. But at the same time, it's been very detrimental with loneliness, with depression, with anxiety. It's really, supported the creation of this mental health crisis that we're actively dealing with. But I think there are new companies arising. One of my favorite ones is Substack, where you own everything that you write on Substack, everything that you create. And a platform like that only takes 10% and you keep 90%, which I think is a model that more and more companies are going to put forward.
You call yourself an explorer, not a teacher. What's the difference?
I feel like the only way that I know that my freedom is genuinely growing is if my ego is becoming smaller. So I don't try to give myself any unnecessary titles. I feel like first and foremost, I'm a meditator. I've been meditating for 11 years in the Vipassana tradition, and it has helped me so much, but I genuinely just feel like a student. I just want people to know that healing is possible. I think that's what sort of shocked me into writing, was like, is this really, you know, I didn't want to fool myself. I wanted to be so honest with myself that the transformation is actually happening. And when I saw that it was real, that the intensity of the reactions was actually decreasing, and that I was able to, you know, develop a better relationship with my parents, with my wife, with my friends, I felt like it was a message that I needed to get out there, and healing is possible.